be with you. Reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. The tax collectors and sinners were all seeking the company of Jesus to hear what he had to say, and the Pharisees and the scribes complained. They said, "This man welcomes and eats with sinners." So he spoke to them this parable. A man had 2 sons. The younger said to his father, "Father, let me have the share of the estate that would come to me." So the father divided the property between them. A few days later, the younger son got together everything he had and left for a distant country where he squandered his money on a life of debauchery. When he had spent it all, that country experienced a severe famine. And now he began to feel the pinch, so he hired himself out to one of the local inhabitants to put him on the farm to feed the pigs. And he would willingly have filled his belly with the husks the pigs were eating, but no one offered him anything. Then he came to his senses and said, "How many of my father's paid servants have more food than they want, and here I am dying of hunger. I will leave this place and go to my father and say, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your servant. Treat me as one of your paid servants.' So he left the place and he went back to his father. While he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was moved with pity. He ran to the boy, clasped him in his arms and kissed him tenderly. Then his son said, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son.' But the father said to the servants, 'Quick, bring out the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the calf we had been fattening and kill it. We are going to have a feast, a celebration, because this son of mine was dead and has come back to life. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now the elder son was out in the field on his way back. As he drew near the house, he could hear music and dancing. And calling one of the servants, he asked what it was all about. 'Your brother has come,' replied the servant, 'and your father has killed the calf we had fattened because he'd got him back safe and sound.' He was angry then and refused to go in, and his father came out to plead with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I have slaved for you and never once disobeyed your orders, and yet you never offered me so much as a kid for me to celebrate with my friends. But this son of yours, when he comes back after he's swallowing up your property, he and his women, you killed the calf we have been fattening.' The father said, 'My son, you are with me always, and all I have is yours. But it's only right we should celebrate and rejoice, because your brother here was dead and has come to life. He was lost and is found.'" The Gospel of the Lord. Amen. What a wonderful teacher is Jesus. This parable that he taught has intrigued artists and preachers and prayerful people all the centuries. The story of 2 sons. One got such a good deal, you couldn't believe it. The younger son went and took his money that the father gave him and wasted it. In a way we couldn't believe. And he got a welcome home when he got home that I'm sure we've meditated on and heard hundreds of sermons on all the years. The unbelievable gesture of the father who saw him a long way off, went out to meet him, hugged him, pig smell and all, as many a parent has done to many a child over the centuries, right? And put the sandals on his feet and the cloak around his shoulder and the ring on his finger. You know, that's the American Express credit card. That's what it was in those days. That's that you signed contracts with, you know? Could you imagine? I had an experience as a parish priest in a family that had 2 sons and several daughters. And one of the boys took off. He absolutely stole everything he could steal from his parents, including their credit cards, and ran them up to the maximum on the ATM machines with taking out cash transfers, put them into very, very serious debt, each card up to $10,000. And he got several cards. And then he turned up home, and I was involved in that. And the younger children gave him a worse time than the parents. Parents were bad enough. They certainly, there was no ring put on his finger. There was no credit card given back to him when he come into the thing. And I can tell you that 20 years later, he happily married with 4 children, and thanks be to God, all the hugs and kisses of his parents paid great dividends with Jesus and the spiritual life. I lived through one of those. I know in many churches, and many times it was my fault as a preacher, we stopped there with the gospel, and we didn't go on to talk about the elder son. But he's essential to this parable of Jesus. The context of the parable is clearly the Pharisees and scribes complained that Jesus was eating with sinners. Now, what's that got to do with this parable? It's of the essence of the parable. It's Jesus' explanation of why he eats with sinners. You know, the perfectly good boy is the type of the Pharisees, who were perfectly good, religious, in inverted commas, people. They kept all the laws. Never once did they disobey him. All the time they were faithful to the teachings of the Lord. But what was wrong in their life is the point of the story of why Jesus doesn't dine with them, why he dines with the other people. Here we see in this elder son, and it's not a true story. No one could make up a story like this. It's just a wonderful example of how good some people think they are and how bad some people really are. This elder son could put into one sentence in vitriol and anger and unforgiveness more than you and I could put in a book. This son of yours, what a nice one. Well, yeah, this is my brother. This son of yours, he and his women. What a mouthful, what? And wasted all your money. It wasn't the father's money. He gave it to the boy, did he not? And did he give just as much to the older son? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But, you know, it's good to get a bit of payback in with every syllable and every word, you know. He and his women, and he squandered all your money. And just unforgiveness. And sure, the older brother was offended. The older brother was offended that the celebration was on, that the father comes out to him and says, look, you know, my son was dead, I've got my son back. We've got to have a party. The father can only see the good in what's there. The elder son, very good, religious, in inverted commas, person. I like to put it this way, and please, because with all due respects and very humbly, we're the good people in the parable. I don't think any of us can relegate to be like the younger son. That might be our ambition one day, to get away and spend all our parents' money, but at the moment, we're not there. We're the good people. And we're the good people that Jesus doesn't dine with. Now, the parable's about why Jesus doesn't dine, why Jesus dines with the marginalised people that are outside the law. And Jesus' answer simply is, we're all invited to the banquet. We're all invited to the banquet. But there's a price of entry. And the price of entry is forgiveness. Jesus said, I'd love to dine with everybody. You're all welcome. You're all welcome. The Father come out, he begged him to come in. Come in, come in and just join in the celebrations. There's lots and lots of family disputes about money. Nod your head if you ever heard of family disputes about money. Yeah, no one ever has. You know what I'm talking about, all right? This is a family dispute about money. And, reconciliation. Reconciliation is what it's about. God made the sinless one into sin so that in him we might become the goodness of God. It requires grace. Reconciliation is not always possible. For example, if someone is dead, you can't be reconciled with them, but you can forgive them. Forgiveness is an act of the will under the grace of God. And it's very, very difficult. That elder son had 99 reasons why he shouldn't forgive the boy. He and his women squandering your money. We can find many of the reasons in the very gospel itself. But, it's about forgiveness. And forgiveness in families. Your wounds can last forever and ever. I told you about that family I had as a parish priest where the boy really, really robbed his parents of money that they didn't have. Ran up credit card debt like you could not believe because he knew the PIN numbers and they didn't know he was doing it. And he, I drove around the city one night with the dad looking for him in case he was sleeping rough and sleeping out, and the dad never gave up on him. Mind you, the dad was waiting to get him and give him a hiding. The dad's not like this dad, right? No dad's like this dad. This is a story. But isn't it a wonderful example of Jesus? And it's a nice meditation when we do things wrong, to meditate on the dad in the story, to meditate on the goodness of God. But when we do the right thing, and we try really, really hard to please the Lord in everything that we're doing, sometimes that comes with a price. And it comes with a great price. And when we're right, it's very, very hard to forgive when we're in the right. But Jesus doesn't say you've got to say, I'm in the wrong, I forgive. No, you have to forgive. Forgive is to give pardon before forgive. Give pardon before the other person does the thing. When she apologises, I'll forgive her. That's not Christian. I better make it equal language. When he apologises, I'll forgive him. I better make that equal. That's not Christian. Before they do a single thing, before they do a thing to say they're sorry, I forgive them. Now that's why Jesus has trouble with the community. That's why half the community have trouble with Jesus. There's two reasons why they crucified Jesus. One is that he ate and dined with sinners. The other one was that he healed on the Sabbath. Thanks be to God. He became the sinless one so we can become the goodness of God. Amen.